Good evening, everybody. It's a Monday night and it's time for a nervous chat. My guest isn't quite ready just yet, so I'll have to entertain you until they join. Before we go on, I just want to remind everybody about the upcoming quiz of the Naughties over on the Walking with the Woods YouTube channel. That's on the 1st of April. Run a little promo for you. Bear with me 1 second.
Come and join us over at Walking with the Woods on Saturday night, April the 1st, 8 p.m. UK time, as Nick and Claire look back at those club bangers, chart hits, movie soundtracks and TV themes when we play our next quiz, the music of the Double O's. That's April 1st, 8 p.m. on YouTube.
So that's the 1st of April. Over on the Walking with the Woods YouTube channel, and that's the quiz of the Naughties or the Double O's. Be sure to give that one a good check out. Very good quizzes. Nick and Claire, fantastic quiz hosts. If you've never joined before, do come and join us. We usually have a very good laugh. Just going to say hello to a few people who are in the live chat tonight. Good evening, Esther. Evening, Dave from Dave's Adventures. Evening, Kezia. Thanks for joining and for your help in setting this up. Good evening to James, my moderator, the top super moderator that he is. Always good to have him on board. Evening, Adam, Rand's Adventures. Good evening, Nick and Claire from Walking with the Woods. Good evening to Richard and Ellie from the Mediocre Travel Blog. Good evening, Kaz, Sam, Coaster Tog. Good evening and congratulations again. Good evening, the Thompson Life. That's Rob and Lauren. Evening, Abby. Lovely to see you. Good evening to the Coaster Capturers. Lovely to see you. Oliver, thanks for joining. Lindsay, the Coaster Hen's in the house. Good evening, Rob. I'm just going to make sure I've grabbed everybody. There's a long list. Yep, I think I've got everybody now. So, we all love a good scare, or most of us. And we all know that Thorpe Park has been long known for its Halloween event, Fright Nights. We've all experienced it as a guest, as a customer. But what is it like to be part of that Fright Nights setup? Well, tonight's guest is going to tell you all about it. He has been part of the Birthday Bash crew last year for Fright Nights 2022. And he's very kindly agreed to come in and talk to us to tell us about what it's like to be a Fright Nights actor and also to be a member of staff at Thorpe Park. So without further ado, let me welcome Kirby to the studio. Good evening,
Hello.
Kirby.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Good, good. You? Yeah, I'm good. I'm all good. I was getting a little bit worried there when you weren't in the studio. I was like, oh, I've had it happen before where somebody's just not turned up.
Get myself a nice cup of tea.
Oh, you see, Fright Nights.
I did think about buying that the other day.
I have to be honest and say I did actually spend quite a fortune on merchandise on Fright Nights last year because it was the first time I'd ever done the scare mazes.
Yeah.
I've always been terrified of scare mazes. Just the idea of them used to make me panic. But last year I was like, nope, I'm going to do them. I'm going to go and I'm going to do all the scare mazes. And I did. And it was thoroughly enjoyable. Not sure they were as scary as they could have been, but you know, different people have different scare levels, you know, so
yeah.
So that's totally understandable. I've also brought my my little crow with me.
I really wanted to get one of those because I know the person who wore the mask originally, but I held off.
Oh, you see, you missed out, mate. You missed out.
I
got my key as well. I set up a little reward system for myself. For each maze that I did, there was a reward. So the mug was 1, the crow was if I did 2, and the key with the ram's head and that was if I did all 3. So yeah. I got my full collection. So that was I was really pleased about that. So you haven't always been a scare actor, have you? You worked at Thorpe Park before that.
Yeah, so at the beginning of last season, last season was my first season at the park, I was an entertainment host, and I hosted and operated Black Mirror Labyrinth and Angry Birds 4D. Um, so that's what I did over the main season last year.
And have you always wanted to work at a theme park? I've kind of assumed that you're a theme park enthusiast, but
I am. I actually do have Thorpe Park tattoos on my arm. Don't know if you can see them very clearly, but
that's awesome.
I actually went to Thorpe Park for the first time just after lockdown in 2020, and I fell in love with it. And then from there, I went to Fright Nights that year, and I was saying to the friend that I went with, I need to do this because I've always been a performer. I need to be a scare actor. So at that point, I was about 16. And I went to college, did performing arts, and then last year came around, and I was like, I have to go for it. So I did, and then here we are.
That's fantastic. So I'm guessing that a career in some kind of performing arts is what you would like going forward.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm hoping to progress through management and sort of do what Steph Ricketts did in terms of like progressing within entertainments in Merlin, and go into Merlin magic making, so designing all the events and the coasters and that kind of thing. That's what I'd like to eventually progress into. But
Yeah,
baby steps.
absolutely. Well, obviously you've got your foot in the door,
Yeah.
which is very good. So will we be seeing you again this year as an entertainment host as well, or is
This
that
year,
now?
I've officially, hopefully, stepped away from entertainment hosting, and I'm in the opening cast for Ghost Train, and I will be joining The Walking Dead over sort of after Ghost Train opens. So that'd be nice. Plus other seasonal offerings that are coming to the park, and Fright Nights next year, or this year, sorry.
That's fantastic.
So,
So guys, we've actually got a bit of a coup here. A first for the Nervous Chat show. We've got one of the cast of the new Ghost Train setup. I mean, are you as excited as we are about that?
I'm very excited. I think it's going to be really, really good. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I personally don't know a lot anyway. But from what I've seen of it, the characters we did in our auditions and things, I think it's going to be absolutely incredible.
I won't put you on the spot and ask you for spoilers, because that I totally appreciate that you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you give away information that you're not meant to. So I wouldn't put you on the spot like that. But I mean, I must admit, I'm not a fan, or wasn't a fan, of Darren Brown's Ghost Train. I think the idea was excellent. The execution wasn't great. The reliability, well, we all know about the reliability, especially of the VR, and the fact that for whatever reason, if you caught the experience, we'll call it an experience, it's not really a ride, is it, at the wrong time, and there weren't enough actors in it, it just diluted it even further.
Yeah,
And
no.
and so for me, when they announced the back of it, I just thought, good riddance. Let's hope they can do something great. And I must admit, what I've seen is very encouraging. And the fact that they've stepped away from, it's almost like they're going back as far as technology is concerned to doing it properly with real people, as opposed to trying to create images that are out of sync, or don't work at all.
Yeah, no. I
And the
agree.
cafe, that cafe looks absolutely brilliant. I think that's a great addition. Get rid of that little shop, because that little shop just never, I don't know, it was kind of like, to me, it always felt like it was just been sort of dumped there a little bit, and that it didn't really do anything particularly, and it was a bit of it was a very big space for merchandise, for a ride, and it always felt a little bit over space, shall we say, the merchandise. So it's the fact they're now putting that to a much more useful purpose, if you like, to me is a great thing. And I'm a great coffee lover, so
Yeah,
you know.
I actually
Sorry,
used to
go
be a
on.
barista. I used to be a barista before I worked at Thorpe Park. So it's nice that they actually have barista made coffee at the park in a nice little cafe. 'Cause we went into it the other day on preview day, and it looked incredible. And I'm so excited if they keep like the theming level of that up throughout the ride and the queue line and stuff. I think it will genuinely make that ride incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually used to be a barista as well. Back in my youth. That's a little while ago now. But yeah, and so I appreciate good coffee, and so if it's barista coffee they're doing, then I'm even more excited now to be able to go somewhere to get proper coffee. I think will be absolutely brilliant, and of course, because it's Merlin owned, the Merlin Pass discount, I'm assuming, will probably apply as well, which is great, rather than having to go to Costa and pay full price for their coffee. I'm much happier to give my money to Merlin, and obviously get the discount as well, which is great. I'm just sort of running through all these the live chat at the moment. As you can see, there's a lot of comments.
Yeah.
They come thick and fast.
Hello, everyone that said hello, and everyone who didn't say hello. Hi.
Everyone's definitely coming in saying hello. Abby and Kezia, you know, don't you? From Fright Nights, I think. Both of who are people I also know quite well. Having met them both, and spent time with them both at parks, which has been quite nice as I've grown the channel and my Instagram. So being part of Fright Nights, I mean, what was that like? I can't even imagine how what that felt like, being paid to scare people.
It was really surreal because I, as far as I'm aware anyway, I was the first cast member to find out that I'd got been given the job of Fright Nights, because I was originally going to transfer over to Rides and do the end of the season of Rides, just because I thought it'd be cool. But my manager pulled me aside and was like, "You've got Fright Nights before you go, so do you still want to go?" And the entire process of going from auditions to the finding out that you got it, to then the induction where we found out actually what we were, like which attraction we were cast in. I've actually got the video of when all the show captains were running around the room to try and trick us into who's doing what attraction. And it felt like such a surreal moment to find out that I was in Birthday Bash, because I'm not a singer or a dancer. So the fact I didn't do either of those rounds in the audition, but the fact that I'd been cast in it confused me a little bit. But I was so excited to be in one of the open scare zones, especially because a lot of people walk through that area of the park, and just being able to interact with people in. I wouldn't necessarily say that we were the scariest scare zone. I know we did have some very good scares, which I'll probably come on to later. But we had the opportunity to just interact with people. We had people that kept coming back over and over again. We were dancing with them, like doing the mini shows just for them and that kind of thing. And I think that was really, really cool.
I must admit, when I came through on Fright Nights, you were the bunny that day, and you had your head off, holding it by the ears, and were sort of doing this sort of dancing, and it was just so interactive. And I just thought, do you know what, that's brilliant, because unfortunately I'd been a bit disappointed by the interaction in the mazes. I thought, but I totally agree that the interaction from the shows, things like the Amity versus Lycanthorpe, they were very, very interactive. Birthday Bash, very interactive. Last year when I did Fright Nights for the very first time ever, I watched the Birthday Bash, and then actually had my photograph taken with, I think it was the princess, the drunk princess, Crystal, that was it. Yes. And but everyone was so welcoming and so friendly, and they were out in the audience and talking to everybody, and it wasn't too much trouble, you know, and it just added to the show. It really did add to the show. And again, I saw that this year. Unfortunately, I ran out of time to take in the full show, but I saw the actors out, you know, and that was just so nice to see that interaction. And as I say, there's a reason why Birthday Bash is raved about, I think, you know, particularly, and I think it is that interaction. People could feel like they've got some sort of ownership of the show, and they can talk to you guys, and you'll talk to them, and you know, and I think that's a really good thing to have. Obviously, you played, was it three different characters you played?
I played all of the sort of victim characters, so Pinata, Bunny Hop, Turvy the Clown. I played Phyllis the Party Planner, and Julie the Cook.
And of those, which was your favourite?
Oh, that's a really hard question. Obviously, the Pinata has a very, very special place in my heart, because when we got the cast list for the actual show, I was put as main Pinata, so I played him the most, and he was the one that I played through all of the press nights and all of that thing. And I've actually got a little tattoo of him on my arm there. So he's got a very, very special place in my heart. But I really, really enjoyed playing Turvy the Clown, because some of the things you can do as a clown is just completely rogue. We had, it wasn't me, but one of the other actors. We had the squeaky chickens, and the head had come off of it, and he was doing surgery on the mini stage for the squeaky chicken, and he was doing CPR on it, and every time he blew into the top of the head, it would squeak.
Oh, wow. And I
think just being able to play around with that, especially because people are just scared of clowns anyway, you don't really have to be doing a lot. I was walking around going, you've been struck by Turvy the Clown, and people were still running away from me. And I think that was just one of the funniest things, one of the funniest characters to play.
It's really funny, isn't it, that nowadays we associate clowns with horror, whereas I remember growing up thinking of clowns as fun, loving, cute children's characters. And obviously the most famous clown, Ronald McDonald, you know, was a massive hit with children, well, worldwide, I suppose. Now I think Ronald McDonald would scare the life out of children, because clowns are seen as very scary things. I think Stephen King had a massive hand in that with the It book, and then obviously the films that came out subsequently. But yeah, it sounds so. Are you given a bit of a free rein then to improvise?
Oh, 100%. So we were, obviously the show was scripted. We knew exactly what we do. The fight call was all scripted. We had a fight call every day before we went out on park. But the actual roaming area, we were kind of given the character and just got told, go. So in rehearsals, we were just playing around, interacting with each other as the characters, and we played. There's a theatre game that they play quite a lot, where you got to jump in and out of a car, and it's like someone's driving and you're trying to improvise like a scene. We did that with the characters, and just once we'd all learnt the characters, all that, we got more comfortable just doing it while we're roaming, especially because as a roaming area, everyone sort of has their own opinions and they interact in different ways. So you could be creating a story with someone over there, and then someone over there has a completely different idea, and it's building off of other people's ideas, which I think was really, really cool and fun to have.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that you were given that much freedom. You know, I sort of assumed that it was a scripted show, and that you were, you know, obviously, as you say, when you come out into the audience, there has to be an amount of freedom. But I did wonder how much there actually was, and you know, how much the character was set. But it sounds like actually they do really give you a bit of a license to be your interpretation of the character, which is absolutely brilliant, because that must make it so much easier for you, because then it's your interpretation of the character rather than you trying to be somebody else's idea.
Yeah, definitely, especially because it made it so that if you came on one day and, for example, I was playing Pinata, and then you came on another day and someone else was playing Pinata, you'd get different versions of the show every time, which I think is really cool for, like, obviously it's the same show, but people respond in different ways to different situations. Like the scream at the end of the bash, that was live every time. So people went on longer, people did different kinds of screams. I did, there was one show, I think it might have been during like the final few days during buyouts, where I we'd been joking about it as a cast quite a lot, like the the really bad heavy metal scream.
Yeah.
The I did that at the end of one of the shows, and just having that freedom to do that kind of thing for no reason other than it's a bit of fun. I really, really enjoyed that, and we were given so much of that freedom. And another example would be when I played Cook, when I played Julie. We had the little foam fishes, and I called mine JJ after one of the actors that was in The Crows. Absolutely love that man. He's so sweet. And I named it JJ, was going around telling everyone it was my fish, my lover, and Ed. And it just being able to have that kind of freedom, which was nice.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the the changing around of who's playing what part. When I first was aware of that, I sort of thought, does that mean does that mean the show then becomes a bit inconsistent? But actually, no. I now see and saw that it actually keeps it fresh, because and I suppose it makes people come back, because if you're playing Pinata one day and then somebody else is playing Pinata the next day, as you say, two very different experiences, two very different interpretations. And so I think, yes, it is actually a positive, whereas initially I thought, it would affect the consistency of the show, but I now see that it keeps it fresh and keeps it alive and everything else. I always feel terribly sorry for that Pinata. My heart totally goes out to whoever has to play that part, because whether those bashes are real, are they actually bashing you when you're playing Pinata?
So the bat does make contact, but we have body armor under all of the costume. So we had the
Right.
Swarm Invasion body armor that went under the costume.
Okay.
It was very, very warm, but it meant that when it made the bash more realistic, and also there's a bit in the bash where we're crawling across the stage away from Hugo, and Hugo hits us on the back. It helps with timing and stuff, so we know when to react to it.
Yeah.
But yes, they were real. I think I got one bruise that entire run from it.
That's good then.
Yeah.
As I say, for me, I remember watching and thinking, that poor Pinata, if those aren't foam, or if that isn't pretend contact, like obviously like some of the movies and stuff, excuse me, then he's taking a proper bashing, and I really did feel, because it looks very realistic, and that's obviously why. As far as horror is concerned, have you always been a fan of horror, or is it just that wanting to be a scare actor was what brought you into it?
I'm gonna be real with you. I hated horror as a kid. Even up until about 2020, when I went to that first Fright Nights, I hated horror. I would sleep with the lights on if I watched a horror film. I couldn't even watch Harry Potter because of, especially the Goblet of Fire, because of the little mermaid things, without being scared.
Yeah.
So, but now I absolutely love it. Like, I went to see the new Scream film the other day, which was incredible. But I've watched all the Saw films now. I know The Walking Dead isn't technically horror, but The Walking Dead, and I watched one the other day that had Jenna Ortega in it and that kind of thing. And now I just love horror. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of horror. It's not that I don't like horror. I am really bad. I am one of those people that will watch them and get very scared by it. And I like to be scared to a certain degree, as most people do. But there is a limit. I always remember the first time I tried to watch the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And I think I got about 10 minutes into the first film and was just like, nope, not doing this, can't do this. And I've never been able to watch them. Never. Just even and I've retried in like more adult life, and I still get that real creeps feeling. I don't know whether it's the genre of coming in through the dreams that bothers me, because I think, you know, that's, they really touched on something there. You know, and obviously being a child murderer that couldn't die, sort of thing, is also you know, a very spooky scenario. But yeah, there's a sort of a limit. I loved, I don't know if you've seen the old Poltergeist films.
I haven't, but they are on my to watch list.
They are a must watch, because they're brilliant, actually. For the age that they were made, you know, they really do. I would say they still give some of the more modern films a bit of a run for their money, because of the you know, the story is very good, and the acting was excellent, because it had to be, because the effects weren't available to make it as convincing as modern effects would be able to do. So, you know, I suppose the acting had to be that much better to compensate for the lack of effects. But yeah, excellent film. So I definitely recommend those. They're ones that have never actually terrified me that much. Obviously they scare me. Horror films, they, you know, that's what that's their job. But I actually really love them. And the very first one especially. And of course, there's the story, isn't there, about the cast. Various creepy things happen to various members of the cast over the years. I think it was known as the Curse of Poltergeist, wasn't it? And so that just adds a little bit more to the thing, is knowing that now, as you go back. But yeah, but great films. So definitely get those checked out. Have you got a favorite horror film? I'm probably asking you some of the questions that the guests are probably going to, the live chat are probably going to ask in a minute. But
so I saw Smile when it came out in cinema, and I think that was possibly one of the scariest films I've ever seen. I don't like horror films that are just jump scare after jump scare, because at that point there's no story to it. I really like psychological horror, and Smile was just insane. I actually had to look away at some points. It was that bad.
Wow. I remember going to watch Insidious in the cinema, and coming out thinking, actually it looked very much like a bit of a remake of Poltergeist, very similar storylines, and I didn't think it was that great a film, and it relied heavily on jump scares and on very loud volume in the cinema, and I wasn't overly impressed with it. I know a lot of people rate the Insidious films massively, but yeah, I haven't watched any since that one, because as I say, I was a little put off by the first one, so I haven't been back since. But yeah, I say they're not my thing. I think there's another film, and actually somebody that I used to be friends with is actually in it. More of a psychological thriller. It was the one that was based in the disused mental asylum in the London Underground. Was it Creep? I think it was called. Not the modern Creep. There's an older one. It was made in I want to say the early 2000s.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That one's quite an eerie film, and has got some quite gory bits. And I say, a friend of mine was actually in that film, and yeah, it was that one was quite a creepy one. So obviously, you did Fright Nights. Did I see on your Instagram that you did some Christmas work as well, acting?
Yes, I did. I went over to Lapland in Ascot, and was one of their magic elves there. So I was taking kids from like from a little lobby to go and see Father Christmas, like taking photos and stuff during the visit, and then walking them back. That was a big change from Fright Nights.
I was just going to say, how did that compare?
So when we started Lapland rehearsals, we started them during Fright Nights. So I'd go from scaring people the day before to having to be all smiley and happy and like, hello, small folk, and that kind of thing. And it was really bizarre.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know that I would have actually been able to switch. I suppose that's that's the sign of a good actor, to be able to switch characters like that. But I mean, because they're very extreme characters. One designed to absolutely scare the pants off people. One designed to do the complete opposite, which is to make people feel comfortable and welcome and happy. And yeah, I just did you enjoy doing that, or was it a case of it's a gig over the Christmas period?
I loved doing it. It was there were some things that were really, really like wholesome, and it was really sweet seeing some of the kids get so excited. And this is gonna sound really strange, but I think the best child that I dealt with, like the sweetest one, was, I can't think of his name now. He's a comedian. Um, I actually he has his kid. His kid was called Cassius. Um, sorry, I can't think of him. Josh something.
Josh Widdicombe.
Yes, Josh Widdicombe.
Okay.
I took his family to go and see Father Christmas, and his son
Wow.
Cassius just wouldn't leave me alone. So I ended up getting into their
Aw.
family photo with them and stuff. And Tom Daly, it was really weird because we had people like Tom Daly and stuff, and like they wanted us in their family photo, and it was a really bizarre experience. But then you also have the
Wow.
other end of the spectrum, because I'm going to be honest, Lapland isn't the cheapest event to go to.
No.
It's like a £900 not £900 per person, £99 per person, or something stupid like that. And you can tell because they get like Hollywood set designers and stuff in, but
Yeah.
you get some really rich kids that you're like, you I'm not sure you're supposed to say that. Like I had one who kept going, "You're not a real elf," and then I put my boot up because we had to wear pointy boots, and then she
Yeah.
looked at them, and then looked back at me and went, "Oh, okay." And
Nice.
there are some really, really funny stories about like that kind of thing, but it was weird. I'm
Yeah,
definitely
I
more
can
of a scare
imagine.
actor though.
I think Lindsay the coaster hen is possibly slightly jealous of you being in Josh Widdicombe's family Christmas photos. She apparently loves Josh Widdicombe. So it's funny you say about the famous people though. My when we were at Alton Towers on Saturday, I took my son off to do 13, and my wife and my youngest boy sat in that little courtyard area around by sort of Rita 13. And when I came back, she'd basically been having a conversation with like half the cast of Coronation Street, because apparently they were there on some kind of evening do the night before, and then were given park tickets for the next day. And she was telling me about all these Coronation Street stars that she'd been talking to, and I was like, I'm not a Corrie fan, but obviously, I was a bit like, oh, okay. So while I was doing the ride, I've missed all these people. Did you meet any famous people while you were at Fright Nights?
I especially press night, we had quite a few. I made Toby from the Sidemen jump and scream. That was quite funny.
Nice.
We had a day where a few of us were going on break, and we're told not to stop for photos and like scare on our break. Obviously, stay in character, but don't actively go out of your way to scare.
Yeah.
And I heard this guy go like, "Can we take a photo with you?" And I kept walking, and then I heard one of my other cast members go, "Yeah, absolutely." I was really confused, so I turned around, and it was Vernon Kay. And there's the photos on his Instagram. I was Turvy in the photo, and it was just a really bizarre experience. But
Yes, I saw you
do,
share that photo.
yeah, you meet quite a few like celebrities and even smaller celebrities like TikTokers and that kind of thing. You meet basically everyone. Especially because it's
So that,
such a big event that everyone knows. If you said to someone, "What do you think of when you think of Thorpe Park?" a lot of people would say Fright Nights. So
yes,
it's so weird.
it's funny because talking to some of the American YouTubers that I'm friends with, and they expressed a desire to come to the UK. And when I asked them about a UK park, that they would most want to visit, what they actually said was it wasn't just a park; it was a park during a specific event, and they said Thorpe Park, Fright Nights. So it's even well known in the States, Thorpe Park's Fright Nights. So yeah, it's obviously it's very big, and I don't know whether you think that its place on the pedestal is possibly a little bit under threat at the moment, because a lot of the small parks are really upping their game at the moment with regards to their Halloween events.
So I personally, I think SG was a very, very big step for us in terms of getting back into like the interactive scare, in terms of like having the actors can touch you and that kind of thing. But I think our biggest threat at the moment, in my opinion, is the After Dark events at Chessington. Because some of the things that I've heard have come out of that, and like horror at Hitchinbrook House, how that's such a long scare maze with so many different areas, and I I feel like where we're limited with space at the minute, especially because the Creek building's gone now, rest in peace.
Yeah,
Obviously, graduation sucks last year. Amity and Lycan, we don't know what's happening with the future of Birthday Bash, and that kind of thing. We're losing so many attractions this year that I feel like we need more SG level like attractions this year, in my opinion, to keep up with the demand of the scares and all of that thing.
yeah. No, I agree, and I think there's been a danger at Thorpe Park, I think, of sadly people going to Fright Nights or going to Thorpe Park during Fright Nights and then complaining about being unwantedly scared, and Merlin reacting to that by diluting the fear factor. And I think, at the end of the day, if you go to a park during a Halloween event, you've got to expect to be scared, which is why I liked the idea that they introduced the lanyards this year.
Yeah.
So it gave a very clear indication to yourself and your colleagues that these people didn't want to be scared, and to avoid scaring those people, if at all possible, because otherwise we were in grave danger of ending up with a very diluted Fright Nights that was no longer scary, and I think that would have been fatal to Fright Nights. One thing, when I was talking, it was actually during Halloween last year, and I was talking to a YouTubing couple called Longhorn Coasters, and they were talking about Halloween Horror Nights. I think that's what it's called, HHN. And what they do there is they close the park and boot everybody out, and then reopen the park just for people that want to come in, basically to be scared. And I just thought that's a really good idea, actually. Maybe that's something that Thorpe should consider for the future, because I think. But the lanyards is certainly a great step in the right direction, to help resolve that problem. As far as Chessington's concerned, I did Chessington this year. I only did it during the day, and I have to say that was quite bad. That Vile Villagers walkthrough, even during the day, was quite. Anybody of a nervous disposition would have been unsettled by that. And from what I heard about, the After Dark routine was waivers were being signed to allow people to spit at you, to basically throw you into graves and all this kind of thing. And I just thought, that's absolutely on another level. And Creepy Caves for me is it's the only scare maze I think I'd ever done up until last year. And I did it back in 2019, and I was absolutely terrified. It was so good. And I remember then it wasn't an after dark version, but there was a later on version, because at that point, I think during Halloween, Chesington used to open till about 8 or 9, whereas this year they wound it back, but did the after hours event. And I remember seeing the YouTube videos of people being dragged back into Creepy Caves by the actors, and thinking, this is Chesington, this is a family park, and they won an award that year for best scare event at the I can't remember the name of the awards that they do now, and it was and I thought, what, they deserve that award because it was outstanding. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Creepy Caves, obviously, or where they go now, because they've ended Creepy Caves after a very successful run, and I'm glad that I got in to see the last version last year. But it'll be interesting now to see what they replace that with. Have you ever been tempted to maybe change park and go to Chesington? Is that even an option? I don't know how it works, the system.
Hypothetically, yes, I could, but I don't think I'd want to. I really, really enjoy working at Thorpe Park as a park, in general. So the thought of moving to another park doesn't quite sit right with me. But also, I had considered doing what one of our actors did last year, which was doing Tully's Shocktoberfest as well.
Okay.
Which, although I'm going to be honest, we went last year as a big Fright Nights social event, and the scares were very samey. But I feel like because Thorpe Park has very good ties with Tully's, because a lot of our entertainment management used to scare there when they started. If we merged casts, you could probably get a very good balance between the parks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Tully's isn't a park. But also, just going back to Creepy Caves quickly, like After Dark and stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry. Being a scare actor and going through scare mazes is basically what After Dark is, because they're all your friends, you know them all. They will get you doing some of the weirdest things. I senior hosted Breakout at Bozo's last year as well. And I did a run through, and every time I got to finale, they dragged me through the actors' corridor by my hood back into the dentist room, and then I'd be going around in circles. And I think I did it about 5 times. And we did some staff runs of survival games, and they got me on my hands and knees, barking like a dog. I was crawling through the maze, and I had someone's prop up against my neck at one point. And I feel like that's not necessarily the experience that everyone wants, but that's my personal favorite kind of scare, which I think would be cool to have the option for, like After Dark, for example.
Yes. Yeah, because I went into survival games expecting something along those lines and came out very disappointed, because I didn't get any of that. Even to the point where, when you're in the cages and the arm's supposed to come through and drag you through the curtain, the guy that was doing it, he leant in, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, I'm going to grab you now and pull you back through the curtain." And I just thought, oh, thanks, that's ruined that then, because I knew it was coming at some point, but obviously didn't know when it was going to come. Well, I did after he said that, because he obviously he made it quite clear what he was going to do and when he was going to do it. And then I went round, and there were actors, but they weren't really interacting, and it was a very busy day. And I suspect that what was happening was they wanted the throughput. So the I don't know whether whether the word had gone out as, try and get people through as quickly as we can, and there were delays as well with the maze itself, and I would have loved to have been, you know, grabbed like that and made to do something ridiculous, and you know, and I heard of people that had that experience, so it was you know, it was disappointing that I didn't get that experience, because I'd gone in expecting it and then didn't get it. You know, it probably would have terrified me, but that's what I went to Fright Nights for. I went to face my fears, which was of being terrified in a scare maze. So, you know, I'm going to go back this year, because I'm sure it was just a bad day. You know, everybody has them, every park has them, and everything else. So I think it was just probably a bad day, and I'm going to go back this year and hopefully get more scared, because now that I've done it once, I feel braver, and I will go back, and I will do it again. You know, and love to do it. Obviously, you were saying about completely. I apologize. My thought process just jumps from subject to subject. You said about working at Lapland. Have you ever considered maybe going to Chesington to do their Christmas event? Because I know that there are actors, or one in particular that I recognised from Fright Nights, Chesington at Christmas. I think it was last year. I'd seen her at Fright Nights, and then I saw her at Chesington, and I said to her, "Oh, I saw somebody look just like you over at Fright Nights not so long ago." And she very cleverly said, "Oh, no, that's my cousin. We're very similar looking." And I thought, that's brilliant. You stayed in character. You're not giving the game away. Fantastic. But it obviously was the same person. Have you thought about that?
I think I don't know whether I'd ever do a Chessington Christmas event. I quite enjoy doing Lapland, because it's a very sort of closed off, intimate experience that,
Yeah.
and also the set design and the people you work with, it's all very, very well thought through.
Yes.
But also, just going back to people recognizing you, I actually had a really, really terrifying moment at Lapland last year, because I was with one of the actors from Death's Doors. We were put in a pair for like running the children backwards and forwards to Father Christmas.
Yep.
And the kids started talking about how he went to Fright Nights and his favourite bit was Death's Doors. And obviously, the other person I was with was in Death's Doors. And
Oh,
he looked at me and went, "You look like that guy, the little pinata guy." And I was like,
oh no.
"No, that was my cousin." Because I apparently everyone's cousins.
Yeah. Apparently so. Yeah. You've all got lots of cousins who do various events, which which I did find. I say I found that quite funny. That you know, but fair play to her. She stayed in character and went, no. I'm an elf or whatever it was, but it's my cousin who does Fright Nights, and I just thought that's fantastic. You know, that's really, really good. If anybody's got any questions that you'd like to ask Kirby, because I think I could probably chat all night. I've got so many things that I'd love to talk to him about. Adam from Rand's Adventure is straight in here with what is it like to work for Thorpe Park in general?
I would highly recommend it to anyone. Obviously, it's a job, so there will be times that are difficult, but in general, also it does vary from department to department. So I've only worked in Ents, so I can't tell you about other departments, but especially entertainment, Thorpe Park is very big on the Merlin value for the love of fun. They want everyone to have as much fun as possible. Like the staff motto last year was professional fun, and it is all about having fun, the guests having fun, just having fun, and obviously health and safety. But it's also really nice because you get your 23 tickets a year, 40% off Lego, all of those sort of. I think you get 50% off annual passes. That can be useful.
Yes.
But you get all these perks, and it's also just a really nice environment to work in. Like you could, especially because it's so varied from day to day. Like I operated Angry Birds every day for a couple of months, and then they were like, "Oh, we've got interviews open for senior hosts." So I did that, and then I ended up on Bozos, and then Fright Nights came along, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do Fright Nights." And there's opportunities to transfer departments and all of that sort of. You get so much variety at that park, and the people you meet are incredible. I've actually got a photo on my wall over there. I won't show it because my room's a mess 'cause I'm moving. But it's from me and my friend from Rap Party, and you will make friends for life. I'm moving in with one of my friends from Fright Nights in a couple of weeks, and it's it's the people that really make it as well.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally understand that.
I could ramble on about this forever.
No, but well, actually, because you say that, and I think for me, similar situation from YouTube is, I've made a group of friends since doing YouTube, and I've only been doing it for a year, and they're probably the best friends. In fact, it's no probable about it. They are the best friends I've ever had, and it's purely and simply through our love of theme parks and roller coasters and YouTubing. That we've met, and we're scattered, quite literally around the country, but we try to get together as often as we can. And they are the best friends I've ever had. So I totally get what you're saying about, things like that can bring people together, and you make, friends for life in those kind of situations. So I totally understand that. Casey was asking, I don't know if they're still watching, your favorite roller coaster. I'm quite intrigued to hear this.
Oh, it's torn between three.
Okay.
So my favourite one at Thorpe Park is Saw the Ride. I absolutely love Saw the Ride. I don't know what it is. It's just a really cool ride. It was also the first ride I ever went on at all at Thorpe Park, and my first ever roller coaster. So that was cool. But I also really enjoy Wicker Man and the Smiler at Alton Towers. I absolutely love them to pieces. I've got the layout of Wicker Man on my wall, and I've got Smiler bedding on my bed.
Nice.
But they're very. It's very narrow between all of them.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose my feeling about I just want to say a quick goodbye. Thanks, Chris, for watching. See you on Sunday at Thorpe Park. I kind of can't have Saw as a favorite because everybody has Saw as a favorite. I personally think it's a bit rough. I did another version of that roller coaster last weekend over at Adventure Island, and it was a much smoother version and a much more enjoyable ride. So for me, it was I can't. But for me, Thorpe Park, I'm divided on two: Swarm and Stealth. Swarm because it was the first really proper big coaster that I braved, because up until then I was terrified of roller coasters. Even flying fish used to make me anxious. As embarrassing as it is to admit that, it used to make me anxious. So I'll always have this love for Swarm, because it was my launch pad for braving more and more bigger, faster, more intense. And Stealth, I love Stealth because there's nothing else like it in the country. I know Rita's got the launch, but it doesn't have that top hat. It's, and just the sheer speed of it, and it still terrifies me to this day. There are still days when my anxiety gets the better of me and I can't get on Stealth because of the anticipation of what's coming. But I love it for that reason. If a ride can still do that to me, then the adrenaline rush just makes it great. But like you, I do love Smiler. It is a great coaster, and Wicker Man is it's beautifully themed, and so yeah, I'm in general agreement with you over your rides there. I just want to see if there's any more questions coming through. Good night, Esther. Thank you for joining. I hope you get some sleep. If anybody else has got any more questions, I think actually I saw a question from Dave. I'm just going to go. Here we go. Right. Dave's question is, do you reckon that Creek Freak Massacre will ever come back in a different location? And do you reckon that maybe next year there'd be some kind of scare zone around Exodus?
Ooh, I don't know anything about Fright Nights this year. I don't know the lineup. I don't know anything about what's coming back. But I personally don't think we've seen the last of the buckwheats. There's no way we have. So even I don't know whether they'll bring Massacre back because obviously the sawmill's gone now. But I reckon we
Yes.
could have some more Unchained like we had last year, which would be really cool. I would also do the Exodus question. I'd like to think there will be. Again, I'm not sure, but obviously, Wicker Man had the welcome in for when that opened and at Scarefest, and we had the Swarm Invasion, which I know happened after the coaster opened, but it really depends on the theme of the ride. Like you could,
Yeah.
for example, you couldn't really do a scare zone themed around stealth specifically, for example. Like I know
No,
we
no.
had Amity and Lycan, but that was more themed to the general Amity area.
Yes, yes.
So I think it really, really heavily just depends on the theme.
That's interesting. Yeah. And obviously got Sam the Coaster Tog asking any news on Ghost Train's opening date.
I don't know myself, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The park have been saying it should be late spring, which from my perspective is looking quite viable.
I'm praying that it doesn't clash with the opening of Jumanji World.
That would be really, really unfortunate.
It would be.
But I know where I'll be.
I'll be at Jumanji World. I've already got my tickets booked for that. And that's nothing against Thorpe Park or Ghost Train, but I think opening up a whole new area with 3 new rides from a vlogging perspective has to trump a retheme to it in that sense. But yeah, it's I am excited about Ghost Train though. As I say, I'm liking what I've seen so far and really want to get there. Casey's got another question here, which is what's your favorite piece of merchandise that's come out from Thorpe Park?
Oh, that's such a hard question. I actually don't know. So I don't really buy like theme park merch anymore. Like I did when I first started going to the parks. I was like, oh wow, that's cool. But now that I'm there so often, I'm just kind of like, I'm not gonna buy any of it. Maybe I'll get a hoodie every now and again because I like wearing the hoodies. I think the birthday bash cast hoodie, that's a good one.
Nice.
I really, really like the Saw mug with the Billy puppet. I've actually have that one downstairs. I think or the socks because socks are important, and I would live in those socks if I could. I think they're the biggest contender.
Fair enough. I happen to be I must be the merch team's dream because I buy so much merch. Mugs. I've got a thing about mugs. There's only me in the house that drinks hot drinks. And I think to date I've got 16 or 17 ride based or attraction based mugs. I'm already eyeing up another one for Curse at Alton Manor. I didn't get it on Saturday when I was there, but I will probably get it when I go back later on in the year. They're bound to release a Ghost Train mug, so that's probably going to be added to my collection. And I've now got to sort of look and think about how I can display them because I try to use them. I try to use them on a bit of a rotation system, but they're more just for collection, really. I like the look of them and I like collecting them. Obviously, the medals behind me, I've got those, the pin badges, and other random bits of merchandise. T-shirts, obviously my stealth T-shirt on tonight. I've got so many ride T-shirts, and yeah, it's I must be, as I say, the merchandise designer's dream come true because I'm that person that will buy so much of the merchandise.
Yeah, because this is the first ever bit of theme park merch I bought, my keychain, which I still have on my keys.
Oh, fantastic. I've still got actually the very, very first it was a lanyard that I bought, and it was from 2014 when I did Nemesis Inferno, and it was the first and last roller coaster I did until 2020. And it was this amazing one. It's got a little button, you press it and it lit up all around, and it doesn't light up anymore, but I've still got it. It's in my box of memories, and it will be treasured forever. I'd like to think one day maybe it'll be valuable, but I very much doubt it. But it is a reminder of the one and only time pre-2020 that I braved a roller coaster. Yes, got another question. Sorry, Kaz, I've just skipped past you here. Favorite dark ride?
Oh, that's another really, really close one.
They're putting you on the spot tonight.
I really, really enjoy Flight of the Skyline at Legoland.
Oh, good choice.
I think it's such a unique experience, and if they ever get rid of the 4D cinema at Thorpe, I think they should replace it with a flying theatre, and I will keep pitching that until it happens. But I think that's such a good one, but it gives me a bit of a headache sometimes if it's too late in the day or something, my head starts to hurt. But I also really like Hex at Alton Towers. I really like the theme of that because I really, really like history of old buildings and stuff because I'm a nerd. So the fact that it's an actual legend, I really like that for Hex and the theming of it. And also, I didn't know. I walked onto that ride for the first time. I had no idea what it was about. I don't think it even been open before I went. Like, the first time I went on it was the first time I'd been to the park and it had been open. I hadn't seen any videos about it. I hadn't seen anything, so I went on it, and I came off and I looked at my brother and went, "What just happened?" And then I just love Vekoma Madhouses. They're just really cool.
I'm not Hex's biggest fan. It's okay for me. I prefer Legoland's Vekoma Madhouse.
Yes.
That's just awesome, and that tune just gets in your head.
Yeah.
And I do love that. I prefer that version of it. I love the legend of the towers, and the story behind Hex, but I'm not a great fan of the ride. I think it could have been better. But yeah, the Haunted House Monster Party at Legoland is just yeah, it's another level, and that soundtrack is just amazing. Whoever came up with that was absolutely bang on, because it just gets into your head and you can't get it out for days after you've been.
I feel like my only problem with it is that I've only ever been on it once, because every other time I've been to the park, it's been closed. So I haven't been on it enough to call it my favourite yet.
It certainly, I don't know more recently, because since I've been a lot braver, I don't tend to go to Legoland as often as I used to. But it certainly in its first couple of years did seem to experience a lot of downtime, and there was a lot of resetting having to keep going on to keep it running. I don't know whether that's because the technology maybe was a bit further on from Hex's, because Hex up until more recent times from what I know had been quite reliable, whereas Haunted House had been much less so. But hopefully they'll get that sorted, because it otherwise, that to me is one of the appeals for going to Legoland, and I'd be gutted if I went and it wasn't working. I have been once or twice where, like you, it's been closed, and I've been quite gutted about that. But yeah, it does seem to experience quite a bit of downtime. So I'm hoping that they will sort that out. I believe I was told it was to do with the computer system that operates it having glitches rather than it being mechanical problems, which is why a reset quite often brings it back to life. But obviously that's rumor, and and gossip. So another question from Casey here about your favorite ride soundtrack from Thorpe Park.
I know it's not a ride, but am I allowed to say Black Mirror? Because I mean, again, it's not a ride, and I listen to it so often when I work there, like on that attraction. But I think it's genuinely quite a good soundtrack, in my opinion. But if I had to choose one of the actual rides, I think I have to say the Swarm Island audio in general, especially when they play it like the radio broadcast, and they've got like the little bit from Six, the "Don't lose your head," that stuff, and I
Yeah,
really enjoy that, and the dispatch audio for the Swarm when that plays, I really enjoy that.
I think Swarm Island is a very immersive experience, isn't it? Once you've stepped through those gates, it's almost like you've entered a little mini park, because the audio is bang on. Obviously, you've got that legendary song that was written specifically for the ride, which is my it's my song that gets me through close season. Whenever I'm starting to miss roller coasters, I bang that on, and it just takes me back to days on Park, and especially now having done Swarm in the dark, and I did it with a fantastic group of people, again YouTube and Instagrammers, so now it reminds me of that, and it just lifts the mood, and it's a great tune. Let's make no bones about it. It is a great tune, and the theming on Swarm Island as well is outstanding. So yeah, I can definitely go with you on the Swarm one. Not so sure about Black Mirror. I'm not a big fan. I don't know why. It did make me feel a little bit, I don't want to say sick, but I don't know. I felt a bit lightheaded after I did Black Mirror, and just, yeah, it was a bit too stroby and everything for me. I don't know. Other people have said they love it. It's personal taste, isn't it? At the end of the day, everyone has their preferences and personal tastes. So and I totally respect everybody for that. James here is just saying that obviously the theming of Swarm Island is top tier, and it's a shame that the rest of the park doesn't live up to it. And he's absolutely right. I think it's very sad that for me the worst themed area, but it's the one that has massive potential to be improved, would be Colossus's Lost City.
Yeah, 100%.
It just looks barren almost. There's so much more that could go on there, and they could literally lift Colossus right back up to where it was when it was the first 10 looping roller coaster, with just a great, just some decent investment in some theming, because it all looks very tired, and it doesn't help sell the ride. And of course now you've got Sick as well, which is widely accepted as the better version. It's sad really, because I do love Colossus.
Yeah. I really like the Lost City soundtrack as well. That's another really good one in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, you go first.
No, carry on. Sorry, I was just agreeing with you.
I think the park are making a step in the right direction by retracking Colossus with the new paint, which looks weird at the moment, but I imagine once the whole track's been replaced, then it will make sense. But I was moving the Soar Alive boat as well and making that little picnic area, and I feel like they are doing little touches like that to just build up that area a little bit more and make it nicer. But I feel like there is stuff that does need to be done across that area of the park just to give it a new lease of life.
Yes. I agree, and I think, as you say, Merlin are slowly rejuvenating older parts of their parks. Chessington has seen, as well as Jumanji World, they've spent a lot of money upgrading things like walkways, repainting old areas. Alton Towers as well has been freshened up a lot. I noticed on Saturday. So I think, yeah, it'd be great, and hopefully they're going to do the same thing to Thorpe, because there is some very tired areas now, and it probably doesn't need a lot to just bring it back up again, but it does need something, because it is looking quite dated, and as we say, and quite tired. So it's unfortunate, really, because it is a great park, and obviously it's my home park. So I'd love to see them invest not just in a new roller coaster, but in the park as a whole, to bring it up and really push it back to a good place.
I think what I'm most excited about for like the areas of the park is when Angry Birds eventually goes, what they're going to do with that, because that's such a big area with so many rides in it, and plus the 4D cinema, that will all have to change. I think that would be really cool to see change. Sorry,
Yeah.
to add that.
No. It's I must admit, I think, yeah, that would be an exciting one when the license for Angry Birds is up, which I'm sure there probably isn't too much time left on it now. That what they do with that, I can only assume they'll keep Detonator, because Detonator is very popular. But as you say, the 4D cinema, it's not really a popular thing anymore, is it? It's not when you've got things like the immersive Skylion and things like that could be done in there, and the Dodgems, that just screams to me mobile fun fair. And it just, I actually think it almost cheapens that area of the park. So it would be good to see something else go in there, some other sort of flat ride maybe, or I don't know, just something. So it's yeah, it'd be good to see that retheming, and that's quite an exciting prospect. And as we say, it's probably due to happen in the quite near future.
Yeah.
So if anybody else has got any questions, Casey, I'm not ignoring your question about, but I don't think that first of all that it's fair to ask Kirby why rides were closed on Pass Holder Day, and it's also very likely that Merlin, or upper management at least, wouldn't have shared that information with the staff in general. I can only assume that there were massive technical problems. It's generally the reason for preview day is so that they can test things out, like staffing and ride availability and reliability. So I am aware that there were issues on Pass Holder Day, and on Blue Light Day the next day as well. But I don't think that Kirby will know what those reasons were, or if there even was a connected reason. It may just have been a very unlucky day. So I'm not ignoring your question, but I don't think it's fair to pose it to Kirby as a member of staff. I know that Merlin have a degree of confidentiality as well, that even if he did know it, he's probably not allowed to tell us. So, and that's fair enough. I totally respect that. Yeah. So
Steph just wanted to switch it up that day. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Do you know what? I heard about those rollbacks and I was terrified. That to me would end my riding stealth.
I'm the opposite. I've always wanted to be on a stealth rollback, and then every time I went to go to stealth, it closed because it just rolled back.
Because they have to ride reset, don't they, after every rollback?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The difference. You would consider it very lucky to get a rollback. I would consider it a warning to get off stealth and never get back on. So I rely on that, on the idea that it reliably makes it to the top and over. I know King the Car in the States there's, I think it's about a 50-50 chance of a rollback. And that's sort of 400 feet high. And I'm just, I mean, that must be terrifying to get a rollback on that. But I know that getting a rollback on stealth is a very desirable thing amongst the coaster community in general, but not for me, and certainly not for James, the coaster chicken, either, who suffers ride anxiety like I do. I think for us that would be the end of any hopes of carrying on riding stealth. We'd have to go back to just doing Rita for the launch, and saying, yep, stealth, thank you very much. We've had a few good rides, but if you're going to roll back, no, I'm good, thanks. You can ask for blind launches on stealth. Yes, somebody threatened to do that on one of the times I was queuing, and I very quickly told them that if they requested a blind launch, that I would not be getting on it, because I like to know. Well, apparently no. Okay, I'm being corrected here. King the Car is not even 10% rollback, but I'd heard it was more often than that. So I take it back. It's not a 50-50, but yeah, it's certainly a lot more often than stealth.
Going back to the blind launch, asking for a blind launch on stealth, the best thing to do is ask if you can do Simon Says. I know quite a lot of the stealth hosts, and a lot of the time, because I'm actually very good friends with, especially one of them who I went up to Alton Towers with last year, and he didn't even tell me that like asked me if we were going to do Simon Says. He just went, "We're doing Simon Says," and it was like, put your hand on your nose, put your hand on your face, that kind of thing, and then put your hands up, and then it launched. And it's such a fun game to play on stealth for some reason.
Not sure I share that. As I say, for me, my usual ride position for stealth is harness down, white knuckle gripping on the handles, a slightly grimaced face because I'm clenching my teeth, and that's how I deal with stealth. And I've never been able to take my hands off yet. It is an aspiration I have, that one day I might actually be able to let go and ride stealth with arms up. When that will be, I don't know, but I am hoping to that happens at some point. I've managed it with Rita now, so that's a step in the right direction. Yeah, but I'd love to be able to do it on stealth, because that would, to me, would be a real conquest of my fears to do that. So it's it's very much an up there with something I want to be able to do. If anybody's got any other questions, oh sorry, I've missed one. Casey, what rides have you operated or proud of doing at the Thorpe Park Resort?
So I operated Black Mirror and Angry Birds. I hosted both of them as well, and I senior hosted, which is basically operating Breakout of Bozos over Carnival last year.
Yeah.
I'm very, very proud of Breakout of Bozos, in my opinion, because I senior hosted it opening day, and seeing all of the cast in the green room, all covered in clown makeup, and they were having a great time, and then all the good reviews came in about it, and I think that was just really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
And I won't lie to you, senior host wasn't the most hands-on job in the attraction, like during operation. We were just sort of there as a batch host, and then if there was a shutdown, we'd be the ones to respond to it, call it through the radio, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we got to walk through it like at the start of each day, just to make sure all the effects were working and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun, because there was no actors in there, so it was just walking through trailers and brozos with no actors. And I imagine some people have heard about the ghost in trailers, Susie. it's a weird experience, and also getting to stand down the actors at the end of the day, 'cause you join the last group and go at the back of them. So you're kind of getting to do the scare maze every single day, but you're
Right.
standing down the actors. And there was a really fun experience where all the actors stayed in character, and instead of going to the actors corridor to get back to the green room, they just followed me through the maze, all still in character, and then they all sprinted out as soon as the last group came out of finale. I think that was just so much, like, so funny to watch, and I just loved seeing you hosting Bozos.
Will Bozos be returning this year? Do you know?
I don't know, but I think it's very possible that it will, because it was so successful last year. But
Yeah.
I'd like to see them do it in another maze instead of trailers as well. I mean, I know SG is the only one still standing, but even doing it in SG, I think that would be really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
And if it
Yeah,
does come back, I'll be in it.
Even better. Even better. Dave was asking, were you there on the opening day of Black Mirror Labyrinth in 2021?
I wasn't. I was going to, and then I think I ended up having to work that day, and I was really disappointed. But I didn't get to go until, I want to say, Fright Nights that year. That was my first time doing Black Mirror, and I hated it. I really did not enjoy it, because if I get too immersed in something, or just even general areas with loud spaces and that kind of thing, because I'm autistic, I hate it. So I didn't get to go for it on that opening day, unfortunately, but I got to host it opening day last year, closing day last year. No, I did do it before Fright Nights last year, last day
Yeah.
before then. So I've been there. I was operating it on its first birthday. That was cool.
Nice.
I started singing Happy Birthday down the PA, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I thought it was funny, so I did it. It was last group, so it was fine.
As customers, we actually like that kind of thing, because it's just a personal touch. It just takes away that corporate control sort of thing and makes it a bit more personal, which is why the choo choo at I think at Runaway Mine Train caught on so much, but only being done in that kind of disinterested voice, that choo choo. And I think
Yeah.
it is good to have those kind of things. We love them. So I would have liked to have heard that. I think that could have been quite funny.
I think a lot of guests don't realise how often that kind of thing happens, because it just breaks up our day. I had a day where I was operating and we were in a shutdown, but there was some guests in the queue line, and I was singing down the radio to them while I was trying to fix the shutdown. And just, it's small things like that. We had a guest that kept going round and round Black Mirror, and we were timing him and that sort of thing. I don't think people quite realise how often we do that.
No, they probably don't, because as you say, unless you do go round and round again to experience it, and and you happen to be in those situations where you guys do step up and do that kind of thing. I've been on a couple of roller coasters where we've not managed to get out of the station for whatever reason, and then all of a sudden the ride up has started either telling jokes or a bit of a sing song, or and got the riders that are sort of trapped in the train involved, and it really does actually make such a difference to the experience. It turns what potentially is a bad experience into a good experience, or certainly a much better experience. And especially for people like me with anxiety, a breakdown is actually a really bad scenario for me, especially if it's after the harnesses have been clipped and are locked in, because as soon as I hear that something's broken down, the first thing I want to do is get off, and obviously that's not often possible until a senior engineer or member of management can come in and release those restraints. So that's a very difficult time for me, and so to have somebody lightening the mood is very much appreciated, because it distracts me from the situation and does actually help a lot. So certainly I for one appreciate that kind of thing, because it does make a big difference in those situations. So thank you, and thanks to all of your colleagues for that, because I say it is appreciated. You may not always realize it, but it certainly is. Right, I think that's it for the questions for tonight. So I will let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us tonight. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've learned so much about what goes on behind the scenes, and I think I'll look at Fright Nights possibly a little bit differently this year, with a bit more empathy for the people who are working it, and obviously now that I have a slightly deeper understanding of how it works and why it works that way, and you know, and that kind of thing. So thank you so much for that, and I appreciate you talking to us in the middle of moving as well. I did clock that one when you spoke about that earlier. So because that's a turbulent enough time, I know. So but it is very much appreciated. So thank you so much for coming in, and I look forward to. It's been my absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you at Fright Nights, if not before. There's a group of us coming on Sunday, actually, to Thorpe Park. So if you're around, be lovely to come and say hello. Are you working on Sunday, and do you know where?
So I'm not working on Sunday. We don't start.
That's a shame.
We don't start rehearsals until April, so
Right.
I won't be there unless I end up coming as a guest.
Well, if you are there as a guest, then please, you know, look out for us. If you're not, I look forward to seeing you later on in the season, because I know last year I made something like 14 trips to Thorpe Park throughout the year. So I'm quite sure that I'll be making quite a few this year too. But I will keep an eye out for you, absolutely, and come and introduce myself, because it's always nice to meet people in real life once they've done one of these lives with me. But as I say, thank you so much, and good luck with everything this season.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. It's been lovely, and I will speak to you again soon. Take care for now.
Have a lovely evening.
You too. And there we go, Kirby. It's what an absolutely lovely guy, and we just obviously learned so much tonight about Fright Nights. Certainly I did, that I didn't know. So yeah, it was been a great nervous chat tonight, and as I say, something a bit different, which I like to try and bring something different. I really enjoyed that one tonight, and I hope you all did too. Next week we have two very special guests. They are known as Poppy May's Adventures, which Poppy goes around vlogging parks and attractions, and she has her partner, the well-known grumpy theme park dude, who has made a vocation out of going around theme parks looking as miserable as possible, complaining, and just generally taking the fun out of the theme park experience, obviously in a tongue-in-cheek way, but he does it with such finesse. He is absolutely hilarious, and Poppy is an absolute sweet as well. And so I'm looking forward to getting them on the show to just see just how grumpy the grumpy theme park dude really is. So until then, thank you all for watching. As always, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It's really appreciated. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit the like button. And hopefully I will see you next Monday at 8 o'clock for another nervous chat. Until then, take care of yourselves and see you soon. Bye for now.